Hello everyone, I'm continuing the series of 1e4 e5 model games according to the Chessable repertoire, and in this video again it will be a game in the Polario defense. So white plays bishop c4, knight f6, the two knights, knight g5, d5 takes, knight a5, bishop b5, c6, takes. So this is the starting position, and white goes bishop to d3, kind of the main move and most challenging in this position. And okay, now knight d5, white goes knight f3, bishop d6, short castle, rook e1, and bishop g4. So yeah, after the 8th move bishop to d3, this is kind of the line in the repertoire, and I have already recorded a video game of Vincent Keimer, which went with bishop f1 and f5. Check that out in case you haven't seen that. But in this game, it is the main line and most critical move by far, which is h3, which was played. So white is immediately asking this bishop whether to go to h5 and keep the pin or take on f3. Obviously, the by far more logical move is to play bishop h5 with the idea of pushing f5 and e4. But thanks to the inclusion of h3, now white has a very strong move, which puts this line into some sort of crisis, I would say, because now after bishop to f5, the bishop itself blocks f5, and okay, without f5, black doesn't really have much to play for. So for example, in case of queen f6, white just goes bishop g4. So in case of trade, of course, it's just great for white. I mean, now the pawn covers this f5 square, and okay, anyway, without the pin, f5 is not such a big deal, so white is just much better here. And in case the bishop would drop back to g6, it may seem like that the bishop on g4 is a little bit weird, but as a matter of fact, after d4, this is just a very good piece because it takes away squares from the queen, and if the other bishop comes, you can see that the queen all of a sudden has no squares. So this position is just completely winning for white. So therefore on h3, black must take queen f3 and use this time to play f5 now. Obviously, that the thing is that the queen can be in the pin in case white takes on f5, and probably white has to take on f5. I mean, there is a move like bishop f1, but black can just play e4, for example, and after queen d1, bishop c7 is just so much easier to play with black. Just play queen d6, bring the other rook, at some moment push f4, and just go for the checkmate, and with good chances, I would say. So critical move is to take on f5, and here queen e7 is the recommendation. Of course, what is white's point is that g6 can be met by bishop e6 check, so they are not losing a piece. However, this g6 move, I would still, it's tough to say, to recommend or not. I mean, but just to test it out, maybe it can work for you in, blitz or rapid games. I don't know if you would be brave enough to test it in classical. So the point is that it's not that easy that okay, white plays bishop e6 and it's bad for black. So how it goes: bishop e6, king g7, Here white has only one move, not to be completely lost. So if anywhere the queen goes, I mean, white is pretty much lost. You should do a little bit of analysis, but really minimal. For example, if queen g4, then that is just queen f6. F2 is hanging, and also h5 is a threat, kicking the queen and then just taking the bishop. So that's it. And, you know, same story with a lot of other moves. So basically the idea is to go queen f6 with a double attack on e6 and f2. If white tries to keep f2 protected, then I assume just knight f4, again with a double attack, and black is winning the game, basically. So it can really quickly go wrong for white. Therefore, the only good move for white is bishop takes d5, sacrificing the queen. And indeed, if black accepts this sacrifice, and then we make a quick material count, white has a rook, a bishop, and 2 pawns for the queen, which is already slightly better than the queen, that material. But what really hurts black is this awful pieces, which will definitely not generate any kind of attack on the white's king. So yeah, this position is just absolutely dreadful for black. Knight is coming to e4, d3 will be played, and yeah, this is just losing, I believe. But there is an interesting move here on bishop takes d5, which is bishop c5. So instead of immediately taking the queen, black is adding some extra pressure on f2, and also just attempts to take back the bishop on d5. So this is quite an interesting move. And okay, I'm not saying it's impossible to find the correct way from white in this position, but still. So queen takes f8 is again pretty much the only move to give advantage for white. Now queen f8, bishop f3. Everything is very similar to what I previously showed to you, but here black has an extra kind of tempo with the move e4, so trying to more open the position. Rook takes on e4, now rook e8, knight c3, and knight c4, for example. The knight cannot be taken because of issues on the back rank. And then, of course, if king h2, then some bishop d6, and black is winning. So you can see that here the material count is rook, bishop, and 3 pawns for the queen, but these pieces somehow manage to get back into the game and may be able to create some threats. I did not analyze further. I mean, I would say black has practical chances, but white is better in this position. I mean, that's clear, but I mean, it may be interesting to try this whole sequence of g6 and test whether white knows his theory. I mean, theory in the sense that analysis rather, because there are no games for this. Okay, so after this, all of this, let's return to queen e7, which is actually the good move, and basically now you can see why. So the queen covers e6, and now black wants to play g6 and win the piece. So white has multiple ways to get out of the pin or do something else. Basically, with that I mean to attack some of black's pieces, so to gain time and get away from the pin like that. So obviously there are these moves of queen to g4, queen to e4, queen to d3, pawn to c4. I mean, these are the moves which are tried in practice, and okay, there are quite a bit of analysis in the course about all of these moves. In this game, which I'm showing you, black played queen g4, which I would argue is probably the most logical move. And okay, white player in this game is rated 2390 over the board rating, so like very strong player. So he gets out from the pin, wants to meet g6 with bishop e6 check, most likely. So yeah, I mean, it looks completely logical and normal, but in fact, this is already a serious mistake, and yeah, black exploited it in a very nice manner. So yeah, now g6 wouldn't make that much of a sense. For example, there is bishop e6, as I said, but maybe even removing the bishop to e4 is also good. So it doesn't do that much. But what is very easy to miss, that now queen f6 is played. So if I go one move back and want to make queen f6 in this position, then white just plays bishop e4, right? Because it's now the queen is covering the f2 weakness, and yeah, queen f6 also stops this x-ray on the queen. So that this is possible, and this is good for white. But queen e7, now queen g4, and now queen f6. Now f2 square is not protected, and obviously such moves as bishop e4 are not possible. So basically it is forcing bishop to e6 check. Now king h8. And white has a big problem of protecting the f2 pawn. Like, it absolutely has to be protected, because it's not only a pawn, but it's a rook and maybe even a mate. So there are pretty much two ways to protect. I mean, rook e2 just drops a lot of material, I guess, to knight f4, for example. So in the game it was rook f1, which is probably the better way. The other one is f3. I mean, it looks super suspicious with all those dark squares around white's king, and also the queen can be maybe somehow short of squares. So now knight f4 is good, targeting the bishop goes away, and then h5. Queen has already one square, only goes to g3, and now e4. Not a particularly difficult move, like threatening knight e2 check, for example. I mean, now the bishop is in the attack, so the game is actually completely over. One way to show how it can end is like queen f2, stake on f3, queen takes back, now knight h3 and queen h3, queen f2 with mate in the next move. So f3 not really good. Rook f1 was played, of course quite passive, but there was nothing better. Now knight f4 is coming, attacking the bishop, so basically gaining one more tempo. And white went bishop d7. Again, it's more of a fighting choice and better choice than the maybe safer looking bishop b3. The problem with the bishop on b3 that it does nothing. So from b3 it will not, in any way help defending the king. So basically black has a free attack with four pieces against the queen, or once the queen is chased away, against no pieces. So h5 is obviously the first move, just chasing the queen away. So if it goes back all the way to d1, then queen to g5 is very strong. I mean, mate in 1. Now g3. Like, basically it goes without saying that anytime queen f3 is played, e4 is just coming, and the queen cannot stabilize the king side. So queen e4, you can play rook e8 and win. You can play knight h3 and win anything you want. So g3, now knight takes on h3, king to g2, and of course there are different ways, but in principle this is quite nice how black wins here with e4. Again, just include this bishop in the game, and that's decisive. White can take the knight on h3, but after rook takes on f2, this type of mate or this type of mate is coming, and it's just a nice win for black in this way. So that's in case of queen to d1, and if queen goes to f3, as I said, it's pretty much always e4. Like, just gain a tempo, include the bishop in the game, maybe open the file for the other rook is just too tempting, and it's just good. And the line is pretty nice here. So queen e4, rook e8, queen goes to f3, and now black can again just take on h3 with the point that after queen takes on h3, there is a nice queen takes f2, rook f2, and rook e1, and then the next move checkmating on f1. So therefore, you can see that this bishop b3 is not good, and the bishop on d7 is kind of needed to at least cover the h3 pawn against knight h3 ideas. So bishop d7 was played. And now rook a d8. I mean, very logical move, targeting the bishop and threatening to play h5 and winning the piece. But white cannot do anything against it. I mean, and it's not that surprising, I have to say. So if you remember, this rook was already on e1, now went back, and these pieces did not make any move, which is not good. And these other two made many moves, which is also not so good. But still, I mean, white made a good practical move here, d3. So his idea was that h5, which was indeed played, to play queen f3. And so obviously now there is a bishop for free. So if black takes, white takes on f4. Now ef4 is still good, but nevertheless it would give back the knight. So queen takes f4, queen h5, king g8, and let's say knight c3. So what we shouldn't forget that if black already sacrificed quite a few pawns, and now white has 3 pawns for the piece. It's not enough, so black has serious firepower on the king side and so on. So it is still better for black, but you know, it's already possible to imagine like knight to e4. If it happens in one day, then it can be, you know, not so easy to break down white's position. Of course, white can play e4, but then there is g3, and I mean, things are not that simple, I would say. It's possible for white to fight. But as in many other cases in the repertoire, like theoretically speaking, you can see in the course and also in these games. I mean, this is only the third game which I'm showing to you, but like especially in the Chimer game, there were many times when, you know, not taking the material was the key, but just to continue the attack. And here black played an excellent move, queen to g6. So basically not hurrying with taking back the piece. I mean, saying that, okay, this piece will be lost anyway. The queen covers the h pawn, so this kind of counterplay will be not there, and the x-ray on the queen is renewed. So this was a really nice move, I would say, probably the most difficult for black in this game, and this is really just very nice. And yeah, what can white do here? He played bishop d2 instead. Sorry, so instead there is bishop f4, but then there is just rook f4. Queen goes anywhere. Black recaptures black captures the bishop with an extra piece and managed to keep the h pawn. In case of bishop takes on c6, there is simply knight takes, queen takes, and again white is falling apart on h3, and then knight f2. So white decided to try this bishop d2, attacking the knight on a5, and if the knight were to move, then the bishop can be saved by bishop takes e6. So once again, black is just making excellent move, rook takes d7. So bishop important defender of the king side, and you know, this knight is completely meaningless, and now the bishop even, you know, goes a little bit further away from from protecting the king, so not putting any pressure on the knight and so on. So basically all pieces could be now attacking the white's king, so it's not a surprise that the position is winning for black, and he is doing it really well. So there is not a winning X-ray with the knight currently, and there is one piece which is not yet activated, and that's the bishop on d6, so e4 is coming. So this is the third sacrifice of a pawn, so white will be up 3 pawns. So d4 was played, queen e4 is refuted very nicely. Knight takes on h3, king h1, knight takes f2 check. So it's all possible because this bishop basically creates a back rank problem for black. The knight has to be taken and black just recaptures simply with material advantage, since if the queen is taken, then there is a back rank problem. So therefore DE was played. And yeah, this game is really quite impressive because again, there is not an obvious way to win with black, and the move which actually was played is knight to e6. So going backwards is never that easy when you are attacking. But okay, now it's chasing away the queen. It opens the rook. Maybe the other rook can come to f7. Also, maybe the knight goes from d4. So it opens many new ideas for black, but nevertheless, it's not an easy move to make. So it's really quite impressive. So white had a few moves with the queen. If it would go to e3, then simply bishop c5 just gives a huge tempo, and you know it's falling apart on f2. There is not a whole lot to do here. If the queen goes to e2 or b3 or such squares, then knight d4 is a problem. It is coming with the tempo, so now queen has to guard c2 as well. Now queen c4, for example, knight f3, king h1, knight h4, and yeah, eventually there is no way to really protect, because g3 is simply bishop g3, and it will be checkmate in a few moves. So white decided to play queen to c3. I mean, in some way it looks logical, so it's not a tempo. Knight d4 is not a tempo anymore, and also bishop c5 is not a tempo, but nevertheless, bishop c5 was played, obviously putting a lot of pressure on the f2 pawn. And yeah, I mean, these pieces are simply not there to defend the king, and the knight is just coming to defend. So basically, I mean, okay, it's hard to say that white only needs one more move, because I believe even then it's completely lost, but at least white is on the track to defend somehow. But now black finished the game with in a nice way. So he took this knight on d2, queen takes on d2, and now knight f4. So with the bishop being on c5, there is no f3. And with the bishop on c5, there is also no g3, because then the queen just captures and it's mate in the next move. So yeah, basically there is nothing to do. The computer advocates for queen takes f4, but yeah, that's not saving white for sure. So g4 was played in the game, and after queen e4, it's a little bit funny that there is still no way to protect the g2 square. I mean, this is still pinned, and white resigns at this point. A really impressive game from black. White just made this one mistake of queen g4, you can say, straight out of the opening, and then black didn't give any chances for him to get back into the game. Thanks a lot for watching, and hope to see you in some other videos.